Now, on Friday, Donald Trump became President of the United States of America, having beaten Hillary Clinton in the Electoral College, although not in the popular vote. Yesterday, millions of women across the world took to the streets in protest, calling for women to have parity and equity at all levels of leadership in society. And this week, in the Swiss Alps at Davos, the World Economic Forum brought together the most powerful movers and shakers in business, finance and governance to discuss the state of the world. Prime Minister Theresa May was there. She was part of a minority group. Only a fifth of the delegates were female. Is the system stacked against women? Well, Aisha Ali Khan from Shipley Feminist Zealots, as I get called. So called because I think the MP Philip Davis referred to you as zealots.
Yes.
So you took it up and you ran with it.
We owned it, basically. We thought, OK, if this is what we're going to be branded as, well, we might as well own it and obviously have our cake and eat it.
It's great to have a zealot on the programme.
Thank you.
It's not the first time, but it's great. Now, listen, what does victory by a man whose apparent views about women, what is it with these apparent views about women, what does it tell you about where we are in the struggle for equality?
I think with the election, obviously Trump's election, I think we've gone backwards massively. I think if we can vote, we can have somebody in the White House with views that are so degrading to women, and the comments he's made over the years, not just obviously during the election campaign, but previously as well, which then came to light during the election campaign. If somebody like that, and with his views in the White House today, I don't know what hope we have for the rest of women across the world.
Oh, come on, this is just... Belinda's gearing up here. This is just one dinosaur, isn't it?
Literally.
Now, hang on a second. I'll be going around the audience very shortly. Let's get to Aisha and then Belinda's response. This is just one dinosaur. The universities are full of young women. The march of progress goes on, and the promised land will be reached, surely.
The sad thing is that it's not just one politician or one person or one leader. We have so many similar people, similar-minded people all over the world. I mean, look at Philip Davies. His comments around women and equality and so on. He has an issue with women who want equality. He has an issue with women who want...
Do you think those views are prevalent? Do you think those views are common? Widespread amongst men still? I
think the danger that we have here is that these men have got platforms with which they can disseminate these views to a much wider audience. I mean, last night we had Piers Morgan who took to his Twitter account and he branded feminists, rabid feminists, women that were protesting.
But the protests are really inconsistent, because I've not seen any protest against the Saudi government, even though people know that for years women have not been allowed to drive or do anything.
We have so many amazing feminists, so many amazing women who are protesting, and these are obviously women who recognise the fact that women in Saudi and other countries as well, not just in Islamic countries, who are being discriminated against, who don't have the same access to education, to healthcare, to obviously to...
That's part of the struggle, obviously.
Yeah, it's part of a wider struggle.
Belinda, hi.
I think the important thing is that we're talking about feminism in this country, we're talking about women in this country. We should not be using the terrible situations of women and men in developing countries to boost the feminist campaign. Speaking personally as a woman, I don't feel I have ever experienced disadvantage.
Are you a
by
feminist?
Virtue. Absolutely not. No. I'm strongly opposed to feminism, and this idea are things stacked against women. When I look around me, the evidence is pointing to actually things are stacked against men. I mean, if you look at the education system, all the way through, boys are disadvantaged in relation to girls, resulting in 33% more women ending up at university, resulting in the fact that up to the age of 35, women are actually earning slightly more than men. There are all kinds of ways. When I look around...
But women have to do so much better and achieve much more to achieve something to get to the same level.
That is a complete myth. That is a complete myth. The reason why women are not at the same level in politics or is because of choices we make. We prioritise our families and our private lives more than men do. This is, we are not talking about...
Okay, well, Mandy, do you want to come in? Yeah,
Jackie.
I mean...
Jackie.
I'm so sorry, Jackie. I was just rather taken aback by the... which is great. Passion,
Yeah, I mean, I feel a lot of passion about the lack of parity, the lack of equality of women across all
it's a myth.
levels. I think the myth is that we have equality, that we have parity.
Absolutely.
I think we still have a long way to go. I think there's been a great strides in terms of women in society, women in organisations. There's been focus on developing women in more senior roles at leadership levels. But we're still a long way to go.
But Belinda says it's because of the choices that women make.
But I think we do have choices, and I think feminism isn't against choice. I think the idea of feminism is that we have the opportunity to choose between what we want to do, whether we want to work, whether we don't want to work, whether we have careers, whether we don't. It's all about choice.
I mean, there are a couple of things there. I don't think feminism is about choice. It's actually put women in a situation where now we're much more compelled to work than we ever were before. We're forced to go out and leave our children in childcare at much earlier ages. And let's look at the facts. If we look at the facts, who lives 5 years longer? Women do. Who constitute the majority of homeless? About 95% of the homeless and rough sleepers. Men do. In all these different areas, who constitutes about 79% of the suicide rate? Who makes up who gets sentenced for longer times? Men do. It's hard. Who gets less funding on healthcare? Men do. It's hard to find one area where women are disadvantaged
Sarah
in
wants
relation
to come in
to
here,
men.
just sitting beside. This is Sarah, Belinda, Sarah.
Hello.
Yeah.
I think it's really unfortunate to conflate things like homelessness statistics and the length of prison sentences just with solely on the grounds of gender. Both the things we've talked about so far around women and men are all happening in a context that is all happening in a context. And I really strongly disagree with a lot of the points that you have made around education. The idea is when I buy my niece and nephew clothes, I can buy Superman outfits or I can buy Little Princess outfits, and it begins even before the womb that we are so conditioned. And in our parliament at the moment, we have 29% of the MPs are female. We have
20% of the Conservative MPs.
20% of the Conservative.
They're chosen from committees which are full of women. As well.
Yeah, at every level. If you look across our society, at every level, statistically and anecdotally, we still do not have equality. And to suggest that, as a feminist, I should only care about women in this country is deeply offensive. My sister...
Allow me if I may, Belinda, Heisbert, allow me if I may to go to the audience, because after your opening salvo, which is absolutely fascinating, lots of hands went up right behind you. Yes. Good morning, hi.
My point really is about there is equality to certain levels up to middle management level if we're talking about employment, or even if we're talking about political roles. The gap really widens when it gets to leadership level. And what I've observed, and I've talked to hundreds of women on this subject, is often it's because other women are judgmental about other women. There is discrimination, but when we get to a certain level, we pull up the ladders behind us, and that's really unhelpful, and that is why change isn't happening as quickly, in my opinion.
Interesting. Straight along there, yeah. Hi, morning. Are you a feminist?
Yeah, I'm a strong feminist. I'm actually quite shocked that it's quite worrying to hear people still today misinterpreting feminism. For me, feminism is literally just all about equality. And when it really annoys me when you have misogynists such as Philip Davies saying that, yeah, but men have high suicide rates. Yeah, we completely agree. That's feminism. Actually, ironically, the fact that men have high suicide rates is because of the fact that they don't feel comfortable expressing themselves. The whole point of feminism, the whole point behind feminism is to deconstruct those kind of gender expectations so men feel comfortable to express their emotions. So men, if it's their choice, and let's, for example, say you have a couple and the man has a lesser job than the female, that they feel comfortable being a house husband. There's no kind of stigma in the society. That's actually supporting feminism. And there's this myth and these statistics that you're coming out with. Actually, I completely agree with the lady with the purple hair. Sorry, I didn't get your name in the front. Sarah. Because it shouldn't be just seen in a vacuum. You know, you don't just have gender, you have intersectionality with race, class, and to say that you know, there's white working class men out there that are struggling, completely agree, but it's not just based on their gender.
Yeah, you can
It's
come
based on
back any
economic
time.
conditions.
Angela, why are you rolling your... What's your name?
Because
Layla, why are you rolling your eyes at what Layla's saying there?
Because I think there are a few basic points which underline this whole argument. First of all, as women and men, biology doesn't make us unequal, it makes us different. And because of that, if I may, I did listen to you. Because of that, it means that women, biologically, may have to make different choices. Even if they have childcare from the day after they deliver a baby, they might be in a kind of hormonal cauldron that makes them make different choices as to the ones they perceive they might make. The other thing about living in a meritocracy is that it should be the best man or woman for the job. So female quotas and shortlists. I don't want to be chosen for a job because I've got ovaries. I want to be the best person for that job. And also it may be that because of lifestyle choices, or maybe they're simply not good enough, that women are not getting the positions in high-end sort of companies because
But you have to address the inequality. How do you address the inequality? Aisha, in a minute, yeah, Aisha.
The numbers do not lie.
And then Jackie.
The numbers do not lie. Fortune 500 companies, only 4.4 are female CEOs. How is that even possible? Going back to the comment that you made.
Maybe they're not good enough, she said.
Only
Maybe they're not good
12%
enough.
of board members are females internationally across the world. What Layla said is absolutely spot on. Yesterday, the female zealots raised over £1,000, obviously on the day in donations, half of which are going to go into Women's Aid, and half are going to CALMS, which is a charity that helps prevent male suicide. So we're not against men. We support men. We support everybody in society who's disadvantaged, who's been discriminated against, and also who wants equality, which is I'm offended that you think I'm disadvantaged.
There's something about the norms of...
One of the big issues, I think, is that there's a problem of raising awareness for the issues that men and boys have. And feminist organizations have systematically been undermining this process. For example, at York University in 2015, Men's Day was marked on the calendar as an important point in time to raise awareness for male suicide, rough sleepers, and so on. But a group of 200 almost only female feminist scholars took it off the agenda, they protested against it. That's a good example of it. And I think that is the problem. I mean, I don't deny that women have issues, but we need to have a balanced view. And in response to you, the problem is that when we raise these issues, like male suicide, the rough sleepers, 97% of all people that die at work are men and do the nasty work that the feminists don't talk about. When we raise those issues, you say, oh yeah, but we need to see it in a different context. But you're also... But why, actually? Why do we need to put it in a different context than when we talk about female issues?
I think in a hermetically filled bubble, and I work in the prison system, so to tell me I don't know about male suicide and homelessness is very unfortunate.
Professor Jackie Ford. Professor, sorry, Jackie. I want to get back to... let's hear from men in the audience as well in just a second. Don't worry, David, I'll be with you. I'm doing my very best here. So what about the point there from Angela that in a true meritocracy, it's absolutely just on your merits, on your talents, on your abilities, and the fact that there aren't more women in the top as CEOs of the top FTSE companies, she said it might just be because they are not good enough.
Well, they're not good enough if you only class the norms of behaviour as masculine norms. And whilst ever you're privileging, in a hidden way, what we value here are masculine characteristics and masculine behaviours, like rationality, like particular aggressiveness, ruthlessness. These are what are going to be rewarded in our leadership roles. You know, we talk about these great, heroic, charismatic leaders.
Ruthlessness and aggression and...
Yeah, rather than a more collective approach to leadership, which gets a lot of mileage, of entertaining issues like constructive
Are those
dissent.
feminine characteristics?
They might be, but what I'm suggesting is that both men and women can have masculine and feminine
What are the
characteristics.
feminine strengths? What are the strengths that women can
that
bring
we
to the
draw
work?
also on communal behaviours, that we draw on emotion, that we recognise passion, that we can enthuse about other issues, that we allow people to speak and not get talked over. Some of those are the issues.
I'm doing my best.
It wasn't personal.
Bishop Toby.
Can I come in here and speak from experience? I came in as a bishop before there were women bishops, and now, thank God, we have women bishops. And it's made
a long time, didn't it?
It took much too long. but it's made such a difference to the way we work together. So it's in all of our interests.
Women bishops, that's a triumph, Belinda, right?
I'm not particular. I have to say I'm not supportive of women bishops. I think it's I think it's important that I'm not in favour of women bishops. I'm sorry.
Why not?
I actually feel it's important. We need to get more men actually into the church, and I think there's a reason that we have male leadership. And
full of men.
It's
It's a similar situation.
What about the traditional roles as you perhaps have it? Have men been emasculated? Have women become, as some put it, defeminised?
I think that actually what feminism has done has made women even appear to be sort of more feminine and more victim-like than they ever were before. I mean, when I see, for example, recently I heard this thing about if you've got problems with your date, you go to the bar and you ask for a particular drink and they'll understand you're having problems. I mean, when I was young, we didn't need this sort of stuff. We could just deal with all these problems, and I feel that what feminism has done has made women feel much weaker and much more helpless than they were before.
This is very dangerous because...
It is, I agree.
Your attitude is actually very dangerous because what you're talking about is something that we should have stamped out years ago. You're basically saying that women, because we obviously want to keep ourselves safe, have no right to expect any kind of safety from society around us.
I don't understand why that's relevant.
I don't understand why that's relevant. I actually think that what feminism is doing is creating hostilities between men and women, which is increasing, which is
how you interpret the concept of feminism.
Wait a minute, Mary.
Some of them are an implication of feminism. And I class myself as a feminist. And I've seen during my life how feminism has actually enabled women to progress and get to where they want to. And what I view feminism as about is actually about choice. It's about women being able to go out to work, have careers. And also, the other side of it, I think, is also about men having choice.
Absolutely.
And in my capacity as a member of the European Parliament, we've done a lot of work on work-life balance, and there is more and more of a need for that. And there are more men who actually would prefer or wish to spend more time at home with their families. And for me, that's what it's about. And I must come back to this question about quotas for women. Women are just as good as men, and we have to get that in our heads.
I'd like to say I'm a declared non-feminist because I think a lot of the current feminist arguments are spoiling for an argument. I mean, that campaign about getting Jane Austen on a banknote, I want the same number of banknotes as my male colleague. I don't care whose face, it could be Mickey Mouse as far as I'm concerned. I don't care who's on a banknote. I also went to school, amongst the alumni of my old school, Manchester High School, were suffragettes. So, and we were encouraged to aim high, power through any kind of ceiling that would prevent us. The first female bishop in the country went to my old school. She was a fellow, Libby Lane. I went to school with her. There was no suggestion, even back then, several years ago, because obviously a little bit older, that she was anyway held back. I can't speak on her behalf. So this notion that somehow we are being arm-locked because society is clipping our wings, I think, is nonsense. If there are concerns such as sexual objectification of women, heinous conduct towards women, it is a concern for all society. And as far as Donald Trump is concerned, Donald Trump was elected by a majority. He's a Neanderthal.
Okay, men in the audience. He's a Neanderthal. Listen, don't diss Neanderthals. Look into it. Very interesting. Listen, Peter, very quickly, and then we'll have hands up, some males in the audience. Very quickly.
I just want to say I think feminism is a beautiful theory. I think it's one of the most profound and insightful approaches to understanding humanity. I think the ethics of care that feminism brings us, I think that it's a way of understanding both men and women. I think the lady who spoke behind us put it beautifully. I think the points have been raised earlier are absolutely fantastic. And as a man, I want to say I think feminism is fantastic, and I think we should have more feminism, and it would be something which actually is very, very important. And just to go back to one point, the feminisation of poverty. The whole issue that since the 1970s has been that more and more women have been impoverished. The women who are going without food so they can feed their children. I think you're totally missing the point. If we think about what the world was like before feminism...
You go on, but... I mean, the problem... I mean, feminism in principle sounds really good. I mean, I think all of us, all of humanity, men and women, we all have sons and daughters. We care about both genders. The problem, I think, is with the sort of like extreme feminist activists who undermine initiatives to raise awareness. And I've just given a really good example of it, and there are many. And you don't know about it because you have only seen it from sort of like the sideline, the positive news stories. But people that look into these issues, like sort of the some of them are called anti-feminists, you know, they can raise these, they can show you exactly what sort of things are going on. This is very problematic.
We have to leave it there. Thank you all very much indeed for that. Thank you. It was considered, and it was consensual, and it was just... If you've got something to say about that debate, log on to bbc.co.uk/thebigquestions. Follow the link where you can join in the discussion online or contribute on Twitter.